Hitchhikers like this are unknowingly kidnapped from Musina in the Limpopo province when catching a lift.
We thought it was a normal trip to Johannesburg. We only come suspicious when we start using the dirty road. That's when we were a bit scared.
The perpetrators are part of an organized crime syndicate of Zimbabwean nationals targeting their compatriots.
These people, they are from Zimbabwe. When they come from Zimbabwe, where they come from, they know that they cannot do this in there. But there is a whole lot of space that they should be doing that in their own country. But when they come here, they're undermining the law of this country.
Police recently arrested the alleged ringleaders of the syndicate at this house in Gauteng.
Just think we've been staying opposite these people, not even knowing that they're killing innocent people here and raping girls and killing girls. They must burn in hell.
Zimbabwean nationals Charles Brewer and his wife Patricia Madida were arrested before for kidnapping.
Charles Brewer married this lady about 4 or so years ago. That last year they were actually arrested again on similar offenses, but because there were no murders or serious issues of rape, they were released.
Now they have been charged for a series of crimes, including the murder of 2 Zimbabwean women, Esther Mwenda and Olga Gwena. Demetria was an eyewitness.
They saw that she's dead. They asked us, she's still alive or she's dead? And we said, no, she's still alive, because we are afraid if you say she's dead, they're gonna kill us also.
We are in Musina, where in the past few months there have been a number of kidnappings in this area. Traveling with us today is one of the victims, Patrick Dangaremba. Patrick, what happened on that day when you were hitching a ride from Musina to Johannesburg?
Yeah, we arrived from Zimbabwe a bit late, so we were left with no option but to look for transport here in Messina.
The kidnappers randomly pick up hitchhikers until they have enough passengers to make their trip to Gauteng more profitable.
A guy approached us and offered a lift to Johannesburg. And we paid him his money, it's 300 each. So from there he did park us there just along this road. That's where they were doing rounds looking for another people to give the ride.
At the side of the road, we meet SIPHO SHANDUKANI. His job is to find passengers that'll board the long-distance taxis to Johannesburg. But it appears he's having little luck.
Those people are from Zimbabwe. They don't want to get in the taxi rank. They just want to those transport for cheap, 150, 50 rands. So that's what they're getting problem.
Despite the warning signs, travelers here are still prepared to take a chance, hitching a ride with suspected kidnappers or becoming easy targets of the Guma Gumas, an armed gang of robbers that lurks in the bush nearby.
Here in Messina we call it Guma Gumas. So they're coming here to, like, when people are coming here to hike, they're doing like they're hiking. So when they're coming here, they are pulling these people going down there. You see, when they are going down there, people they're just busy hiking, and then there is another people coming from bush. Then they started to attack those people. And then they're going to bush, and then they're getting raped, hijacking, even like raped and robbed the people and take their passport.
Meanwhile, at the side of the road, we come across a vehicle loading hitchhikers. So we decided to investigate. In an instant, a bakkie pulls up.
Yeah. What's wrong? Are they complaining? Okay.
We soon realize we are caught in the middle of a turf war. This man, a taxi boss, doesn't want people catching lifts. He says it's affecting his business. We try to catch up to the hitchhikers, but they're not interested in talking to us as they run to hitch another ride.
Right now I can see people are hitchhiking right now. They don't know what I did go through. They don't know anything. Nobody even told them. So even today they are going to be victims.
Patrick says the prospect of a better life in Josie is what draws them.
We are struggling back home and we are trying to make ends meet here, and they could come here and just take all we work for nothing.
Why are there so many Zimbabweans coming to live in South Africa? Why?
I think it's the economic situation in Zimbabwe. Things are not yet okay back home. There's no jobs and people are struggling.
The road between Beitbridge and Gauteng is the main artery that feeds into Zimbabwe, the lifeline of a nation that is struggling economically. It's a road that Patrick knows all too well. So, when the driver took another turn, he became worried.
We thought it was a normal trip to Johannesburg. We only come suspicious when we start using the dirty road. That's when we were a bit scared.
Patrick believes the kidnappers traveled along this dirt road to avoid police roadblocks. This slowed down their journey considerably, arriving in Johannesburg after dark.
Everything did go wrong when we get into Johannesburg. He was speeding like he didn't even did that speed before.
What happened next when you got into Hillbrow?
He just used a dark road in Hillbrow. There's no electricity in that street, and he just go and park the car there by a dark place. It's a garage, like where people used to fix cars.
Patrick spent 3 days in Hillbrow. He and other kidnapped victims were repeatedly beaten, women beaten and raped, as the kidnappers demanded ransom.
These robbers, they will tell us to tell our relatives that we don't have passport, we don't have money, so they must send us money.
How much money did they demand, and how was the payment made?
They demand 3,000 for each individual, and the money was supposed to be deposited in Spar or ShopRite, not a bank account.
After his family paid up, he was released, lucky to be alive. The police arrested 6 suspects, but no sooner did they appear in court, and they were back on the streets.
It is the suspects that were arrested in Hillbrow, and they were taken to court in Tembisa. And the prosecutor refused to place the case on the roll because of the jurisdiction. He said if the people were arrested in Hillbrow, they must be taken to the Johannesburg Magistrate Court where there is jurisdiction. But that does not matter. We are still investigating the case. We know who these suspects are, and we are preparing our docket to take them back to court.
Meanwhile in Brits, the Kauso brothers find solace in the church. They are grieving, having just returned from Zimbabwe, where they buried their sister-in-law Olga Gwena. She was kidnapped and brutally murdered. Sharoma's wife suffered the same fate, but he has yet to claim her body.
The DNA test is being carried out now. Like I said before, they said that it's going to cost something like a month or 2 for the results to come out.
And then, if it's positive, will you claim the body?
Definitely I have to claim the body. I have to claim the body. Now, problem now is the money. I don't know how I'm going to do that. Because last time we were being helped by the church from Pastor Prophet Lovemo Mazaika. Is the one who had some other money for us to carry that other body.
His brother Stanley paid the ransom for the release, but it was the last time they heard from them.
When they were in Joburg, that's when those guys phoned and said, without 4,000, you are not going to find these people. So we hurried it up. Me, I was not there. My brother was there. They called me. Then I said, okay, no, it's fine. Let's organize the money. We organized the money. Then when I come, I transferred the money with ABSA. Then the other one, we used Prophet's account to transfer the other money. You see, because they negotiated to 2,000. So we transferred 2,000. So from that day, we never speak to them again.
The kidnappers took their victims to this house in Rabi Ridge on the outskirts of Johannesburg.
I don't
don't know anything.
Just tell us what you know.
In the streets, a crowd has gathered.
Okay, what are the people saying?
They say the people who are staying there are renting here. So I think they are kidnapping the people from Zim, and they come with them here and do the way they did here inside. So we don't know.
I see the people are very afraid. Why is that? I see the people are afraid.
Yeah, they are afraid.
This is where Olga and Esther spent their last moments. Rosemary WANA says there was nothing unusual about the family living here.
Report them to the police.
Because no one knew what they were doing. Because you can't suspect people. Because, I mean, there was a wife, there was a husband, there was a sister-in-law, there was a nanny, and there were 2 children, 2 small children who was living here. So nobody could suspect that these people were busy killing people.
The alleged suspects, Charles Brouwer and his wife, Petition Madida, moved here in February this year. The Zimbabwean consulate has established that they are from Bulawayo.
The young lady has been here longer than Charles Brouwer, and that they have two children, young children, whom we believe have now been taken over by social welfare, and that they were the ones really masterminding this process. We understand that Charles Brouwer should have a father who should be in the religious circles in Zimbabwe, hailing from Bulawayo. And the other 2 accomplices also come from Bulawayo.
Rosemary says one night she was startled by the desperate screams of women, but she thought all along the disturbance was coming from the shebeen nearby.
A week before the murders, we heard women shouting, and then my sister said, Ash, maybe where they are selling the alcohol, that girls, they are so drunk now, maybe they are shouting like that. And you could hear the screams. I said, maybe they are drunk, those people who are screaming, or somebody maybe is fighting with their husband. But we never realized that the shouts was coming from here.
The police says the suspects often played loud music whilst they were busy assaulting the victims.
They were kept there without their consent, whilst the suspects were demanding money from their families. Some of these victims were also assaulted while they were being kept there. During the assault, it's alleged that the suspects will switch on the radios very high so that the neighbors cannot hear what's going on in the house.
Olga was fatally assaulted, while Esther was assaulted and burnt beyond recognition. Their bodies were dumped in the veld.
These 2 ladies who passed on, Olga Gwena, who we positively identified and has been buried in Zimbabwe, is that she was asthmatic. And when they were attacking her, they did not realize that they were actually, she had actually collapsed. And I think they realized that, and the others did realize that she had collapsed and died. She was related to another lady who was called Esther Mwinde. They were traveling together. They were sisters-in-law. So I think in trying to conceal their horrific and heinous act, they then took Esther Mwinde also and killed her and burnt her so that they would conceal the evidence.
So far, there have been 36 reported cases of kidnapping, but the police says the victims are often too afraid to come forward with information, which makes their job more difficult.
There are several cases which are out there which have not been reported to the police because the victims are afraid that they are illegal in the country. Once they report the cases, they think the police can arrest them.
Meanwhile, back in Musina, we took Patrick to the police station to report the crime. He says he was unable to do so in Johannesburg when the kidnappers set him free.
When I was released, I did go to the police in Johannesburg, Commissioner Street, and they told me to go and report the case where I was kidnapped. So it looks like the police are not helping anything. And after reading that the car was arrested and released, so you end up knowing that even if I report, nothing is going to be done.
In Tembisa, the Kauso brothers arrived for court. It's been a torrid time for them. Having lost their partners in a kidnapping and brutal murder, they are anxious, not quite sure of what to expect. All they want is to ensure that justice does prevail.
These people, they are from Zimbabwe. When they come from Zimbabwe, where they come from, they know that they cannot do this in there. But there is a whole lot of space that they should be doing that in their own country. But when they come here, they're undermining the law of this country because they think maybe they are free to do anything that they want when they are here.
This is the moment that everyone was waiting for. Simba was devastated.
The laws are easy because if they can face the magistrate covering their faces, behind the sense that they have to be their rights have to be protected. What about the rights of the dead people? What about the rights of those kidnapped? So, which means all those kidnapped and the dead people, they have no rights. These ones have the rights, the killers.
According to the Zimbabwean Consul General, the alleged kingpins of the syndicate Charles Brewer and Petition Madida have a previous conviction for kidnapping. They were out on a suspended sentence.
Charles Brewer married this lady about 4 or so years ago. That last year they were actually arrested again on similar offenses, but because there were no murders or serious issues of rape, they were released, and I think they were given the provision that if they don't do it in 5 years, then they are free. So, and we understand. I understand that the young lady has been here longer than Charles Brewer, and that they have two children, young children, whom we believe have now been taken over by social welfare.
The Consul General maintains that the South African justice system is not a deterrent for criminals.
The prison system, in my view, is not punitive enough. It's there's a lot of I can say same luxuriness in the prisons from what I've seen, and it does not deter people from committing crimes again. You find people, for example, when you are dealing with them, trying to repatriate them back home, they will tell you that the prisons are good and they would rather stay in the prisons.
However, the police hope that this time around, the suspects will receive a lengthy prison term.
We have linked these suspects to the crimes that they have committed, and we have got witnesses who will be testifying at court. Some of them they have been also identified on an identification parade.
In court, the Kauso brothers were supported by officials from the consulate and members from the Rabi Ridge community, who expressed their outrage for the senseless killings. For Sharoma, it was like reliving the nightmare.
I feel bad about it, very bad, because it's now 3 months down the line, and now it has started again. It's now like it's just a brand new wound now.
How do you feel that you were unable to see the accused?
Yeah, that much. I felt very angry about that, because I should have seen the faces of the murderers, but now they came with their jacket on their heads. I couldn't face them.
Outside court, we met a group of women, victims of the kidnappers. Demetria Shakania recalls of how afraid they were when realizing that Olga was dead.
So here you die. They beat him and beat him and beat him, and she dead. When they saw that she's dead, they asked us, she's still alive or she's dead? And we said, no, she's still alive, because we are afraid if we say she's dead, they're gonna kill us also.
Meanwhile, at the border fence with Zimbabwe, we find remnants of people that have crossed illegally. The Consul General says illegal migrants are often recruited into crime gangs.
There's a belief that if you are not documented, it's difficult to be followed up. And you find that they get into these syndicates, sometimes with South Africans, and they are the ones who do the dirty work.
With continuing economic hardship in Zimbabwe, it appears that more and more people are making the treacherous journey across the Limpopo River through the fence into South Africa. It's unclear how many Zimbabweans now live and work in South Africa.
When there's no formal documentation and people really cross the bridge, some through the bridge, some through some devious means, it's very difficult. We have people in the mines and the farms. I'll give it plus or minus $1 million, 2,000.
Meanwhile, Sharoma says his life is on hold. When tragedy struck, he was thinking of going home, but he says he will have to wait so that he can claim his wife's body to give her a proper burial back home in Zimbabwe.
And how did the family take it? Was it difficult for the family?
Yes, the situation stands right now. I cannot leave my partner behind here. You see, culturally, it doesn't to bring me bad luck. I'll be hunted by bad luck for the rest of my life. The better that I see whether she's dead, I get the boat, I went back with it to Zimbabwe. It's properly buried. You see, we have the luxury of time.
As for Patrick, he realizes how lucky he was to have escaped with his life. He cautions fellow Zimbabweans not to resort to hitchhiking, which is claiming lives. With this document, he will now be able to regularize his status in South Africa.
I'm going to Home Affairs to try and get an asylum paper so that I can have some documents to walk around with. As it's now been difficult for me to walk around without any paper since my passport was taken away with the robbers.
Patrick says his biggest wish is to one day return home to Zimbabwe and never again have to struggle for survival.